Morning, friends. Welcome to Moxie Gardens. I'm Mike Toomey, coming to you from the state of Kansas, Zone 6A. Today I want to take you to a particular area of the garden, but everything's looking so good and thought I'd stop by and just show you a few little success stories. I'm so excited about the sun shining and whatnot, so I got to do an early video before it kind of takes a stranglehold on the image here. See that tape measure? Yeah, I laid that out for the purposes of this video. Today I'm going to tour this little area right here and hopefully show you that you can do a lot with a little. If you watch some of my other videos, I'm a DIY guy. I built that long bench there and added some cushions. And you can ignore the furniture back there because that's going to my daughter's. She's living the college life right now. But yeah, come out here and drink some coffee, or in the evenings we have some evenings out here. And I thought, so many folks have small gardens and don't have the opportunity or the vision to add a big impact in their gardens because it is such a small space. So I thought, why not share this success and let you know that it's possible with a little bit of vision. Believe it or not, that berm right there, that's brand new. I drug in that soil and laid that out last season in October. But the plants and everything, I had to wait to this season because the nurseries were already out of them. We'll do some plant naming here in a little bit. Give you an overall look of what we're doing here, what we're working with. If this doesn't capture your imagination, or if you're not inspired to add a bit of your time this morning to watch this video to see how this little success can be in your backyard, then I apologize. I've talked at it at length at how this stream and stuff came about, so I won't bore you with that. Those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, don't know what Moxie Gardens is, feel free to look back at some of those other videos, but that stream and whatever is basically a necessity and now a success, but it was a necessity to get the water to drain out, and all these three components with the pond, that little creek, and then this dry creek here are to help the water rush out under that bridge and around. So this tape measure here adds up to 12 foot to that landing spot. Add another 3 feet there, that's 15. So another 15 feet added to up to the wall. I believe that's about 10 feet. Maybe 12, but you're looking at a total area from the house out to this particular spot is around 25 feet. If you have no more than 30 feet from your house to the back of your property, look what you can do. And that little bird just came by to tell you, get off the couch and go make your little happy. So how this came about, if you want the backstory on this, is we like to go on vacations to Florida or to the coast. Remember, I'm in Kansas, so we don't have much water around here. So we like to go to the coast, we like to go on cruises. And every time I go, I'm inspired by the optics, what I'm seeing out there, and I always want to go back to vacation. I think that's what we all want to do. And I thought, how can I bring vacation to my backyard in Kansas, USA? And I said, I'm gonna do it. So you see this area here with the rocks and the round posts. Those round posts, they're just from a hardware store. They're posts to put up fencing for cattle and horse and sheep and whatever else you're trying to keep in, goats. And those rocks, that's just rocks that I picked up at a rock quarry around here. And so the idea was, and if I can step back, you can kind of see what my vision was I wanted to create a pier, like I see on a cruise, or pulling up, getting off the ship and seeing how the land lays next to the water. And I wanted to create that area in my backyard. And those of you who have followed my channel know that I get a lot of water that rushes off, and that there is on purpose to help keep the water out of the grass line and allowing it to be a boggy area. Dogs track through and want to bring in wet feet, and if I mow, then they want to bring in wet green feet, and then they want to trample around in the house. So that was all out of necessity. So I envisioned an area where the erosion takes place between the relationship with the water and coming up to the land on a coastline. And I said to myself, that's what I'm going to do. So I dug this area down because although I want the water to rush out, I don't necessarily want it all to rush out. So that's a little bit deeper than the space where it exits under here. And that's so that all these trees, as they grow older, I'm allowing the water to still soak into the ground. I don't necessarily want all the water to leave the yard. I just want it out of the boggy areas of the grass and whatnot because of fungus and the dogs. So I created that low space so that the water still is able to soak into the ground after it reaches a certain point. So a lot of times when it rains heavily, this area will be underwater, or you can see the water in between, and it looks like high tide. That's the vision I gave myself. And I turned these purposes into reason. And so my vision was to create a little coastline right here. And I think I've kind of done it. And with all the dappled willow here and the Frankie boy back here, and those, they kind of give you the sense that you're looking at a coral reef. And those were the purposes of me adding these types of plants here. And I'll go over them. But go look up coral reef. You see the sedum joy? I just transplanted that there. Pardon me. But I planted those there with the idea that they kind of reflect the image of a coral reef. And I said, I want to add that to the yard. Do you see all that color? And there's only 2 blooming shrubs and perennial right now doing all the work. Behind you are the trees and shrubs of different colors. And that's the idea. I like to liken this area to a newborn child that sleeps all night long. I can just come out here and just look at this area and know that there's not a single thing I have to do. Perhaps I have to pull a weed that popped up, but this is the newborn that sleeps all night long. There's no maintenance to this area, guys. So there's your second plus when you're thinking about, hey, I've got about 30 feet in my space. And hey, I don't want high maintenance, because come June, July, August, September, the hot months, I'm a new gardener and it's just too darn hot out there. I don't want to go through and have to do all this stuff. Well, I'm no different. I'll stay out there all those months and I'll keep plugging away. But I don't want to go and invest a bunch of time in these areas. I'm trying to create spaces that sleep all night. I'm trying to create areas that I can just look at and walk through, give it that morning chit chat, and move on with my time. There's no maintenance here, guys. Zero maintenance. So there's your 2 reasons to get up and try. Get up and go be creative. Now, in between this pathway where the rocks are, I'm still creating. I don't like the stone to look so harsh, where it's just stone on stone. So this brick pathway, which, by the way, I get a lot of questions on this brick pathway. So those bricks were no more than stacking stones for a retaining wall. And I decided to go ahead and go to a rock quarry area that, it's not really a rock quarry. They sell a bunch of rocks, they do a bunch of stuff, and when that day that I showed up there, someone had dropped off a bunch of these stones because they were picking up the new stuff. I don't know if it was a landscaper or not, but it's all weathered, and it was probably there for 100 years. I mean, think of, these were solid squares. But don't this look like a little pathway, a little cobblestone? You get to use your imagination what it makes you think of. But to me, it just highlights this little area. It lets me get around my wreath right here. Lets me get around there before the water rushes in from high tide. Takes me around the bend. That's all it is. Use your imagination when you're trying to create your space. Too often we try to be so mature and adults in the fast lane, trying to come up with reasons why we need to do this and do that. Shoot, not me. I don't care. I'm comfortable enough in my own skin. If this reminds me of, Captain Jack and all that, then I'm gonna put it to use. I don't let my age dictate my maturity when trying to create. If I would have done that, I might not have been able to come up with this. I mean, look at, for instance, I've talked about it. See how this stuff looks like it's on a coral reef? See that Frankie boy right there? That's Frankie boy. And the sedum. See how it all just kind of gives you that idea that I brought the coral reef to the land? This dappled willow. I could shape it. I can do that stuff. But I kind of want it to go wonky a little bit. See how it softens the rocks and the back wall? Let's name some plants. Alright, so this starting out right here, that's Clethra vanilla spice. There's little blooms right here. This will be really pretty soon, but it will be covered in every little species out there that's trying to capture some nectar. We even have black wasps that show up there. They don't bother us. I don't know the actual name, but they look like black wasp to us. That thing is, and it smells so good. It likes a little bit of shade, a little bit of sun. It's kind of one of those ones that you can park in some morning sun, but you see the idea, how it's creeping down below the rocks. When you're doing that stuff and you're planning your area, try to find out how the plant grows. Is it something that spreads? Is it something that hangs over? Is it something that's just upright? If you learn about those things before you go out and you do your projects, this is what you'll get. I knew that this will hang over, and then I purposely set it up against a foundation that gets a lot of shade, so instinctively those items that do desire a little bit of sun, they'll start to reach and kind of move over. And that's what this area did. This area just kind of started to come forward so it can get a little bit more of the sun, and that's how this starts to drop down and grow around these rocks. There was a lot of planning that goes into this stuff. Now, those of you who have just started to follow, or maybe just tuning in and see if you want to follow, this area will fill up with water clear to the top of the rocks, and it will flush out underneath this dock here, the stepping, the landing, and take itself on out. But yeah, I can't put fish in there. If you're asking me, do you want fish in there? I can't do it, because the purpose is to hold the water until it rushes out. That's a Japanese maple Crimson Queen right there. It's really pretty. See, that's another one of those items that I've planted here, and it's going to get a little bit larger depending on how I want it, but it's going to flow over and it'll cascade into the water here, and then it's going to create a relationship with its surrounding sisters here. And yeah, and then the heights will be offset. I don't want everything to be the same height, so I've cut this one back a little bit, and you can cut those back quite a bit, but I cut it back a little bit so it's not the same height. I want the ups and downs, that wave effect. And that's little Henry Spire right here. They've like damp soil as well. Look at there. Isn't that cute? Adds a little splash of color right here. And this was kind of gifted to me. So I had a neighbor moving, and the previous owner of the house moved in, and then they moved out right away. It happens. And he brought that tree in. Well, the next neighbor was getting ready to move, and they don't care about landscaping and all that stuff. They're not one of those guys that put too much interest into that. So I went over there and I offered him some money and said, hey, give me a shot to dig that up. He said, you can just take it, man, I don't care. I said, I was probably back before he finished the sentence and dug it up. There are two right here and right there. Those are Eastern Redbuds. And then the purple that's kind of cascading down in the middle right there, those are purple leaf sand cherry. Now, when they get heavy up top from rainfall and whatnot, they'll want to kind of cascade down. And some people cut them back, or some people will try to stake them up because they want that upright effect. I don't. I want that to kind of cascade down. Standing on the bench right here, I'm going to step down so that you see that effect right there. I want the water right there to cascade down, and I want it to echo above. I've cut the branches of this redbud here so it stands above me. It comes over the top, and the sun's peeking over the trees right now, so it's hard to see, but yeah, I want it to keep coming out and not so much down low. Yeah, it's pretty showy the way it kind of just glistens, and each leaf has its dark and its bright depending on how the sun cascades over it. That's all I'm trying to do. Create the illusion that there's color in this area without adding a whole bunch of flowers. That's a Bridal Wreath Spirea right here. That's the one, if you're not familiar with it, it's the one that puts off the long leggy white flowers in the spring. And it's early when it blooms, and I just kind of popped it there at the beginning of this pond area back here. It's just kind of been with me for the ride. I have to shape it a little bit to get through that path, but not too much because I want some mystery to go around there. That's a sea green palm juniper, I believe. I probably am not doing it justice by putting it here because it doesn't allow for its little palms to stand out with the backdrop. If you're interested from looking, if you're visiting the yard and you're interested in what that is down there, it'll force you to come out. I know it's there, but you got to drop in those areas of interest to make people go out and discover what's going on. They'll appreciate the landscape a little bit better. Yeah. Right here in the middle, at the front, I guess. That's a Dogwood Ivory halo. They get super big. You can cut them back, but I like to put that bright variegation right there in the background behind the trees. Sitting from the porch, it just kind of brightens that all up. It brightens up the blues and the greens and kind of gives it its focal point. I love it. And then right behind it is emerald green Arborvitae. Get taller. I talked about how I went on vacation and came back just in 10 days, maybe 7 days. And the bagworms got that in just that little bit of time, but the green's gonna flush out. It looked worse last year. The green will flush out. You'll have those moments. And those of you who garden, you know all about it. We all have those moments in the landscape. Here's a lily here. Right there. It's a lily. And around it are some Asiatic lilies. I planted a whole mess of those around there, and we had that wonky spring where it was warm and whatnot, so some of these already did their thing. That's actually called Carnival Mix. So next year will be super showy, and it'll pop out and it'll come out from underneath the tree and just look super cool. I'm so excited about it. Again, if you're planting your garden today, I encourage you to get out at those box stores. I'm not kidding. June and July in 6A, it starts to get warm. And I'm sure if you're in any other area that's above 6A, it starts to get warm, and these box stores, they just can't hold on to everything they have on their plate, plus getting out and watering their plants. So I encourage you to go down there and see what stills you can get. If you're building a berm, gosh darn, there's rip bags everywhere. That's what I do. I go and I get the rip bags because they'll cut you a deal. The flowers, they'll cut you a deal if they haven't already. I get out there and I get all that stuff, and sure, it's not showy this year, but as long as you have leaf structure and a good root system, they'll reward you next year. And because you took the time to invest in them, I guarantee good karma will come your way, and it will show out. It'll pop off the screen next year. Just give it an opportunity, especially if you're on a budget. I understand what's going on in the world right now. If you're on a budget and you need some friendly help, get out there, because I'm telling you, these box stores are willing to get rid of this stuff before it gets any hotter. A lot of them have their stuff out on asphalt trying to sell their little nursery section. And that asphalt just eats up that root system. So get out there and do your research. Go find you some friendly prices and come home and do it. That's a lot of this stuff here in this garden. I took a chance on because I wanted to spend big money on my trees, so I had instant gratification. So get out there and get those. I act like I'm a sponsor or something for them. But anyways, we talked about the blue pyramid. I had to turn off the photo or the video because there was another plane flying over. I talked about it. Talked about our little Frankie boy here. Get a little sedum joy here. Again, that just kind of reflects the image of a coral wreath to me. I think so anyways. I guess that's what's important. That's a green giant Arborvitae back there. This space was not here last year, guys. I've touched on this a couple times. This was not here last year. I put the soil in, I let it settle, I let it do its thing, take on the snow, take on the ice. It did all its contorting and everything, ground movement. And I just went ahead and went for it this year because the nurseries, I waited too long to complete my vision here. And so a lot of these nurseries didn't have the large items anymore. And so I had to wait till this spring. But can you believe? This just pops off the screen right now. Can you believe that that's only a year old? or not even a year old. I started bringing that stuff in this season. March, April, May, June, started transferring stuff over and transplanting. Those grasses right there, they were transplanted in here. By allowing yourself the airy movements of these plants, grasses and whatnot, you allow sunlight to get to the base of the trees and stuff to keep them full of the shrubs and whatnot. Plus it also gives another visual that the garden continues to go. See, I can't see behind these trees so much, but that grass I can see through. So you know your journey has just started when you have these items up front and center. Yeah. And this guy right here is a winter berry poppins. It's starting to bloom. Unfortunately, I do not have the male. You have to have it within 50 feet, and my neighbors don't plant anything, so pretty for certain little bees and stuff will not be able to pollinate this year. But anyways, if I get out fast enough and bring one in from a nursery, they'll put off the little red bee berries, or when all the leaves fall off during the fall, it'll leave that those red berries there until the birds come and take it away. There's like 5 plants in here, but that's okay. If you're gonna build up a space real quick and you want it to look like it's been there for a while, you don't have time, or you're too impatient, get out there, buy you 4 or 5. They call those drifts or whatnot. I'm not able to do too many drifts in the garden because it's not a big enough space, and I'm a plant collector. That behind it is a purple pride beautyberry. Have to wait for that most times to get up to that point, because you cut them back in the late fall or early spring, and it kind of just comes out, kind of gives some mystery to that area. See how it just kind of pops out right there? So that's the garden in a small area. What I say, about 30 feet. You guys can have all of this if you just give it a shot. If you're inspired by doing this, start your research. Find out what your plants are. Find out what plants you like. Remember, if you want it to just be that newborn that sleeps all night, go out and attack those plants that are available now before the hot season gets here and it's harder to transition. I still add plants no matter what month it is. I'm always adding. If you're like that as well, but if you're a newcomer, the reason why you don't really want to do it in July and August and September is because there's so much stress with the heat, and you have to get out there and water, and you have to, that's the newborn that wants a bottle every 2 hours. So think about that. Anyways, friends, if you like the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, tell your buddies. We'll see if we can continue to grow. But remember, I've never had a background in this, so this is all just as new to me as it will be to you if you get out and try it today. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. And until next time, I'll see you on the flip side.